All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. We're still in the infant stages of this MLB season, but I am very interested to see how this experiment that is everybody playing everybody is going to work out. For the first time in MLB history, each team will face each other during the season. Instead of 19 division games, there are only 13 now. And in my opinion, there's going to be traveling issues on steroids with this unbalanced schedule, as somebody at MLB's big office in New York very much was asleep at the wheel on this one. Some prime examples of this. The New York Mets, they're currently in Oakland to face the Athletics. And after that, they're going to depart to go to LA to take on the Dodgers before returning to the Bay Area to take on the San Francisco Giants. Why not just have the Mets stay in Northern California, take on both the A's and Giants, then go to LA? What is the problem with that? During the second half of the season, the Tampa Bay Rays, they've got a 9 game stretch. It's going to see them go from Houston to take on the Astros, to New York to take on the Yankees, then to Detroit to take on the Tigers. Why not just have the Rays go from Houston, then Detroit, and then New York? Simple. Next month, the Astros, they've got a 9 game stretch. They're going to be taking on the road. They're going to be taking on the Seattle Mariners, Chicago White Sox, and Los Angeles Angels. They're then going to return home for 6 games, and then they've got a 6 game trip against the Milwaukee Brewers and the Oakland Athletics. Why not just have the Astros go right down the coast on the West Coast? Seattle, Oakland, LA. Put the two Midwest teams together. You take on the White Sox, you take on the Brewers, everybody goes home happy. It's one of those where it's a foreign concept, maybe to some, but I think MLB really needs to go back to the concept that they had once upon a time. West Coast teams travel east, you go right down the coast. Of course, in those days, it was Montreal, New York, Philadelphia, and so on. East Coast teams go west. Okay, either you start in San Diego, make your way up the coast, or, if you're an American League team, you make your way down the coast from Seattle and so forth. Okay. That I think needs to be more of the concept going forward. I mean, we hear all of this stuff from Major League Baseball about analytics, players rest, all this other stuff. What are they accomplishing by having guys, going from time zone to time zone to time zone when all of this could be solved? Okay, yeah, you're going to make your trips out of your time zone. I get it. But why not just put everything together based on time zones? To me, I think that makes more sense. Major League Baseball, and I said this when it came out, they need less interleague games. We need to go back to the format 19 games for each of your divisional opponents, 15 interleague games, and set in the final 71. You break those down against the other teams in your league. These are the more important games when it comes down to deciding who's going to get to the postseason out of set leagues, especially since they've done away with the de facto 163rd game of the season if there is a tie. Let's be realistic here. How many people really want to see the Rays take on the Pittsburgh Pirates? Not that many. But how many of those people would be more intrigued to see the Rays play the Yankees in a game or a series that could have playoff implications? These two teams are consistently battling it out in the American League East, and this is just a prime example. I mean, you look at the Astros and the Mariners, what they could be this year in the American League West. You look at the National League East. 3 teams from this division made the playoffs last year. We could get 3 back there. And, Braves Mets is always a big series. Mets Phillies is always a big series as well. MLB needs to put emphasis on that. And I think, of course, in doing away with less divisional games, you're taking away from some of your rivalries that have helped to create your sport. Some examples of that: less games between the Dodgers and Giants, less games between the Cubs and Cardinals, less games between the Red Sox and Yankees, just to name a few. And again, I've talked about it, how traveling through these time zones can be so erratic on players. I think at the end of the day, this is just a big experiment by MLB to try to get us closer, in my opinion, to just having a reroute, if you will, or realignment, if you will, among the teams. I mean, there's been rumors, for several years, of like putting, the Yankees and Mets in the same division, which I think would stink. It's one of those where you need the Yankees in the American League. You need the Mets in the National League. It's good to have a Chicago team in both leagues. Same thing, for the Bay Area teams, and right down the list. And I think this is something where I feel that Major League Baseball is trying to catch up to the likes of the NFL, and they're trying to catch up to the likes of the NBA, and they're doing away with what got them there. And even in the case of the NFL, you still got the Jets and Giants in different leagues or different conferences, rather. Of course, in the case of the LA teams, the Rams and Chargers are in different conferences. And even when it was the Rams and Raiders in LA, they were in different conferences, or when the Raiders and Niners both played in the Bay Area and so forth. Okay, it's a scenario here where you're trying to catch up to these guys instead of sticking to your script. And I know Rob Manfred is going to get a lot of blame for this because he's MLB's commissioner. I get it, but at the end of the day, he's only doing what the bulk of the owners want him to do. And in some of these cases, some of these owners that really don't want to spend money, some of these owners that really don't want to try, they're just trying to go out there and try to make it easier for their teams instead of trying to get better to catch up to the teams that are going, and the organizations rather, that are going out there and putting their best foot forward. I think this is a true joke. There are so many jokes around Major League Baseball, the wider bases. Again, that's a concept, of course, that was pushed forth by the owners. The pitch clock, I somewhat get it. The runner on second base to begin extra innings, again, is a joke. And I think at the end of the day, Major League Baseball is trying to get to a point uh, where they need not get to. It's one of those where if you've done something well that has brought you to this point, why shift from the script? It's going to be interesting to see how the players feel physically as the season progresses. And don't get me wrong, this is not the first time where we've seen an unbalanced schedule because, in years past, we've seen it as well. We'll see a team go on the road to face a St. Louis, then go, to play at San Francisco, then go play in Arizona, all in the same trip. I think it's ridiculous. If you're going to make that St. Louis trip as a road team, why not have them do a 9-game stretch where they're taking on St. Louis, Milwaukee, and one of the Chicago teams, maybe one St. Louis team, or the St. Louis team, excuse me, and both Chicago teams. If you're a West Coast team coming east, you have your series in Philadelphia. Why not just go to Pittsburgh or even start at New York, come down to Philly, and either go to DC or go to Pittsburgh? If you're a West Coast team or even a Midwest team going east to the Southeast, you play Atlanta, you play Tampa, you play the Marlins. Keep it moving. That's just me. That's just my opinion on it. But once again, I think this is another joke in a long line of jokes that Major League Baseball has simply put out there. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.